Deus virtutum convertere et Domine converte nos. Respice de celo et vide et visita vineam istam et protegeam quam plantavi dextera tua. Illustra faciem tuam et salvierimus. Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus.
Imagine waking up to a text that says, everything you thought you knew about the oldest institution on earth just changed before breakfast. That is exactly what is happening right now. While most of the planet scrolled through cat videos and coffee memes, a single sheet of parchment slipped out of the apostolic palace and detonated 2,000 years of tradition. By the time you finish this video, every parish, every cathedral, every living room where someone still lights a candle will feel the aftershock. So pause the autoplay, settle in, and decide for yourself whether what you are witnessing is reckless revolution or long, overdue resurrection. The document is called Cor Unum, one heart. But the first thing it does is rip the old heart out of the church and hold it up to the light. Reform number 1 lands like a thunderclap, the end of financial secrecy. For longer than any of us have been alive, the Vatican Bank has been the Fort Knox of mystery. Popes, princes, and prime ministers could only guess at the size of the treasure chest. Today, Pope Leo XIV says the guessing game is over. In 90 days, every euro, every stock, every gold bar and government bond will be listed online in a line-by-line spreadsheet that any teenager can audit from a phone. Cardinals inside the Secretariat for the Economy begged him to reconsider, one warned, "This will make us vulnerable." Leo answered with the quiet steel of a man who has read the Gospels too closely to flinch. "Good. The poor are vulnerable. So are the lambs." Time the shepherds remembered the feeling. Translation: if the church wants to talk about trust, it must first stop hiding the receipts. Your grandmother's widow's mite, the coins you tossed into the mission basket, the tuition you scraped together for Catholic school. None of it will vanish into the marble maze anymore. The vault doors are coming off their hinges, and daylight is about to flood places that have not seen sun since the Renaissance. Reform too follows like a drumbeat. Term limits for clergy. Picture a bishop who has reigned over the same diocese since the first Macintosh computer hit the shelves. Now imagine him packing his bags because his decade is up. 10 years for bishops, 5 for department heads in Rome. Then they start over in a new post, maybe a refugee camp, maybe a clinic, maybe a tiny village where the biggest event of the week is the arrival of clean water. Ambition will still knock on the rectory door, but the ladder it once climbed has been chopped into movable rungs. A conservative blogger calls it chaos by design. A young priest in Chicago tweets that for the first time he feels invited to be a pastor, not a prince. The upshot for you in the pew is that your parish will no longer be shaped by the quirks of one man for 30 or 40 years. The faces at the altar will rotate, the air will stay fresher, and the gospel will keep arriving in new accents. Reform 3 is the one that trended worldwide within minutes: women deacons. 2 millennia of male, only ordination just cracked wide enough for half the human race to step through. Deacons can baptize, preach, witness marriages, and carry the gospel in procession. They are not priests, but they are clergy. And for the first time, the Church admits the call to serve can sound in a woman's voice as clearly as in a man's. Inside the Vatican hallways, shouting matches echoed. Traditionalists are already drafting formal objections. Yet a historian on the Papal Commission writes, "He didn't open a door that was locked. He handed us a key and said, it had never truly been barred. If you are a Catholic woman who has spent her life teaching catechism, leading retreats, and watching men alone ascend the sanctuary steps, today the ground beneath those steps shifted. The pulpit may soon echo with timbers it has never heard, and every little girl in the front pew now has one more reason to believe God might be talking to her too." Reform 4 flips the confessional box into a circle of chairs. The sacrament of reconciliation, long marketed as a courtroom where God tallies your crimes, will now be pitched as a field hospital where God dresses your wounds. Priests are encouraged to sit face to face. Parishes may hold communal services of prayer followed by private conversations. The old categories of mortal and venial sin are reframed as broken relationships in need of mending. A priest in Ireland fears he will have to rewrite every lesson plan. A woman in California who has not approached a confessional in 15 years says she finally feels invited to speak without dread. The takeaway for you is simple. You do not need to memorize a checklist of faults anymore. You only need to admit you are human and let the physician get to work. Reform 5 hands the keys to the kingdom, at least the investigative ones, to lay people. Every diocese must now host an independent board of prosecutors, therapists, abuse survivors, and parents. These boards can subpoena records, interrogate bishops, and publish findings without asking Rome for permission. One survivor, David, fought for 20 years to be heard. Today, he says the truth finally has a parking spot outside the chancery. A high-ranking bishop calls it letting wolves guard the sheepfold. Pope Leo answers that any shepherd who refuses oversight is already a wolf in disguise. Translation: the safety of your children is no longer an internal HR issue for clergy. It is a public accountability project run by people with skin in the game. Reform 6 erases titles most Catholics never knew existed. The papal nobility, dukes, barons, and counts created by Renaissance popes vanishes overnight. The only honorific left is Child of God. A viral photo shows Leo helping an elderly ceremonial knight to his feet and embracing him. The old world kneels, the new world hugs back. If you have ever rolled your eyes at silk capes and feathered hats, today the closet door slammed shut on all that theater. Reform 7 reboots the Catechism for the smartphone era. Instead of a committee of cardinals locked in a Roman study, theologians, scientists, poets, atheists, and single moms will crowdsource answers to questions the 1992 edition never imagined. AI, climate grief, gender identity, digital loneliness. Traditionalists fear the faith is being put to a vote. A Catholic app developer counters that the apostles never handed out textbooks around the campfire. The upshot is that the next generation will learn doctrine in language they actually speak, illustrated by artists who look like them, backed by data they can Google. Reform 8 tiers up the liturgical cookie cutter. From now on, a Mass in the Amazon might chant to panpipes, while one in Tokyo projects holographic icons. The Vatican is telling every culture, translate the gospel into your own heartbeat, just keep the heart intact. Conservatives call it Protestant drift. A Brazilian bishop says his people can finally build a house of prayer that feels like home. For you, Sunday worship may soon carry the scent of local spices instead of imported incense. Reform 9 sells the Papal Summer Palace. Yes, the one with the manicured gardens and the Swiss guards at the gate, and turns it into a hospital for the poor. Castel Gandolfo, playground of popes since the 17th century, will soon smell of antiseptic and mercy instead of privilege. Billions in prime real estate across Paris, London, and Rome will follow, funding clean water and housing for people who have never seen a fresco. Critics mourn the loss of heritage. Leo shrugs and says the only heritage that matters is a cup of cold water given in his name. Reform 10 ends the exile of divorced and remarried Catholics. No more blanket bans, no more annulment obstacle courses. A conversation with a priest or bishop can now restore access to the Eucharist. Canon lawyers scream heresy. A woman who left an abusive husband 30 years ago writes through tears that the church finally came to find her in the parking lot of her loneliness. The message is straightforward. Mercy is messy, but exclusion is lethal. Reform 11 invites every Orthodox patriarch to a council whose decisions will bind Rome itself. Leo is offering to lay the keys of Peter on the table and let history's oldest family feud heal through shared authority. Some call it brilliant diplomacy. Others predict the end of the papacy as we know it. Either way, the 1,000-year wall between East and West now has scaffolding on both sides. Reform 12 drafts Galileo's ghost into seminary faculty. Future priests will study cosmology, evolution, and climate science under atheist professors who can quote carbon data better than psalm tones. Ignore climate change, Leo warns, and you commit a sin of omission against the poor. Fundamentalists see science swallowing faith. A Nobel-winning physicist tweets that the Church finally has the courage to read the book of nature without fear. Reform 13 retires the title Vicar of Christ. Leo signs his letters, servant of the servants of God. One cardinal complains the world needs a strong father. Not a social worker, the world sees a CEO tearing up his own business card and choosing the title of janitor. The message, the only crown worth wearing is a towel around the waist. Reform 14 cracks open the papal conclave. Next time a pope dies, 25 laymen and 25 lay women from barrios, laboratories, art studios, and refugee camps will sit in the Sistine Chapel and speak before the cardinals vote. Critics predict reality, show chaos. A Kenyan nun says it simply places the people who must live with the decision inside the room where the decision is made. Reform 15 explodes the walls outward. Leo calls the first global council since 1965, but the guest list includes imams, rabbis, Buddhist monks, Hindu swamis, and outspoken atheists. The question on the table is not Catholic doctrine, but human survival. How do we build a just, merciful, sustainable world for our children? Traditionalists panic that the ark is becoming a public ferry. Optimists see the church finally acting like a boat instead of a bomb shelter. 15 seismic shifts in a single sunrise. The ledger is open, the ladder is shorter, the voices are new, the mercy is louder, the palace is a hospital, the shepherd is a servant, and the boat is leaving harbor. Whether the voyage ends in shipwreck or renewal is the cliffhanger the entire human family now shares. The echo of those 15 explosions is still ricocheting off the marble walls of Rome, but the real tremor is happening inside living rooms, subway cars, dorm rooms, and prison cells where people are staring at their phones and realizing the ground beneath their feet has shifted. Let's keep walking through the debris together, because the story is far from finished. In fact, the most dangerous part, the part no headline has captured yet, is how these changes will collide with the stubborn inertia of human hearts. Institutions can publish documents. Hearts take longer to rewrite. Picture a bishop in Milwaukee who has spent 40 years cultivating a reputation for orthodoxy. Overnight he learns he has 10 more months before he's reassigned to a mission station on the edge of the Amazon. His first reaction is not pastoral joy, it's spreadsheet panic. Who will finish the cathedral's capital campaign? Who will protect the diocese from progressive drift? Then, slowly, quieter voice. What if the people I've been too busy to meet will finally teach me why the gospel mattered in the first place? That interior wrestling match is being replayed in chanceries from Lagos to Lima, and the winner will determine whether reform becomes renewal or merely musical chairs. Meanwhile, the leaked audit of Vatican finances is rumored to contain numbers so manufacturer. The faithful never signed up for a hedge fund with incense. When those spreadsheets drop in 90 days, parishioners will finally see exactly how many rosaries it took to bankroll a private jet. Some will walk away in disgust, others will feel a strange surge of hope, because sunlight, even when it reveals rot, also shows where the walls need rebuilding. Across social media, women who were told for decades that their bodies were beautiful, but their voices were unfit for the altar, are posting side by side photos, their grandmother in a chapel veil, themselves in an alban stole. The first ordination of women deacons is scheduled to take place on the Feast of the Visitation, and seminary rectors are scrambling to update liturgical rubrics that still assume the celebrant has a beard. In Kerala, a 70-year-old grandmother named Aisha, who has taught Catechism for 50 years, has been invited to preach. I always told the children God loves them, she said when the call came. Now the church is letting me tell the adults too. That single homily will ripple outward in ways no synod document ever could. But the confessional reforms may be the most intimate earthquake of all. In a parish in Detroit, a priest removed the wooden grill and set 2 armchairs under a stained glass window. On the first night, a man who hadn't spoken to a priest since his divorce 20 years ago sat down and cried. A former prosecutor who once locked up pedophiles now sits across from a Monsignor who oversaw transfers of Deacons where volunteers are mapping wheelchair-friendly paths for the hospital conversion. One volunteer, a 19-year-old art student, spends her evenings sketching the Baroque ceilings so they won't be forgotten. When asked why she's helping to dismantle the very beauty she loves, she answers, "Beauty that hides pain is just makeup. Beauty that heals is art." Her sketches are going viral under the hashtag #FePalasuro Hospital, and donations for medical equipment are pouring in from atheists, Baptists, and Buddhists alike. The divorced and remarried question is no longer an abstract theological debate. It's a family reunion. In Manila, a 65-year-old grandmother who remarried after escaping domestic violence will receive communion this Sunday for the first time since 1987. Her daughter filmed her practicing the responses in the kitchen, wiping tears with a dish towel. The video has 3 million views and counting. Canon lawyers are drafting footnotes, but the comments section is full of people typing, "Welcome home." Mercy, it turns out, is more contagious than doctrine. Meanwhile, the Orthodox patriarchs are reading Leo's invitation with a mixture of hope and historical trauma. The ecumenical patriarch has appointed a delegation that includes a millennial theologian who tweets about decolonizing liturgy. The Russian Orthodox Church is rumored to be split. One metropolitan sees the council as a Trojan horse. Another quietly texts friends that maybe, just maybe, the schism can be healed in his lifetime. In Istanbul, an elderly monk who has prayed daily for unity since 1965 lit a candle the size of a fire log when the letter arrived. "I may not live to see the end," he told a reporter, "but I have lived to see the beginning." Inside seminaries, the new science curriculum is causing uproar. A young seminarian from Nebraska, who once debated evolution on Facebook, now finds himself in a classroom with a Nobel laureate who calls Genesis a poem older than carbon. The first assignment is to write a homily that quotes both Psalm 19 and the latest IPCC report. One student stormed out, insisting faith must be protected from facts. Another stayed up all night reading about exoplanets and ended his homily with the line, "The God who numbers the hairs on your head also numbers the galaxies you will never see." The tension between certainty and discovery is no longer an extracurricular debate. It is homework. The abolition of the title Vicar of Christ has sparked late-night talk, show monologues, and graffiti in Rome. Someone spray painted on a church wall, "Servant of the servants, finally truth in advertising." A cardinal who once loved the grandeur of red silk now wonders if humility is the new power. Vatican tailors are altering vestments to remove the old heraldry. The same needlework shops that once embroidered triple tiaras are stitching simple stoles. The world is watching a monarchy trying to remember how to be a movement. The reimagined conclave is already inspiring mock elections in theology classrooms. Students in Nairobi selected a nurse from the slums of Kibera to represent them. In Toronto, a Syrian refugee mother of 4 was chosen. These unofficial delegates are recording video messages to the College of Cardinals. "Choose a shepherd who smells like us." No one knows if the cardinals are listening, but the videos are racking up millions of views, and the comment sections look more like prayer circles than chat rooms. And finally, the Senate of all people. The logistics alone are staggering. The Vatican has never hosted atheists in the same hall where papal bulls were once signed against heresy. Translators are being hired for Urdu, Quechua, and Python code. A rabbi from Brooklyn and an imam from Jakarta have already agreed to lead a session on economic justice. Secular scientists who once debated Richard Dawkins are being asked to sit beside Trappist monks who wake at 300 a.m. to pray for the world. One atheist philosopher tweeted, "I'm not going to Rome to convert. I'm going because the planet is on fire and the church owns a fire truck." The backlash is inevitable. Traditionalist blogs are calling Leo the Antichrist. Progressive Catholics accuse him of not going far enough. Parishes are splitting along generational lines. Families are arguing at dinner tables. A bishop in Poland has already declared his diocese a sanctuary of tradition, while a priest in California is live streaming Mass with mariachi music and incense made from sage picked on indigenous land. Schism or symphony, no one can yet tell which tune will prevail. But somewhere in the middle of the noise, quieter miracles are blooming. A teenager in juvenile detention asked for a Bible after hearing that confession is now a conversation, not a verdict. A scientist who lost her faith in graduate school downloaded the draft Catechism and was stunned to find a section on quantum entanglement quoting both John Polkinghorne and Julian of Norwich. A mother in a refugee camp heard the Pope sold a palace to fund clean water and whispered to her daughter, "Maybe God has not forgotten us. History teaches that revolutions eat their own children, but it also teaches that every movement begins with a moment when someone risks looking foolish for the sake of hope." Leo's gamble is that mercy is stronger than fear, that transparency can outshine secrecy, and that the Holy Spirit is allergic to locked doors. The next chapter is unwritten, and the ink will be mixed with both tears and laughter. So keep watching, keep questioning, keep praying if that is your language, and keep commenting even if it is not. Because this story is not just about Rome, it is about every human heart that has ever wondered whether old institutions can learn new songs. The choir is assembling, the sheet music is still warm from the printer, and no one, absolutely no one, knows how the next verse will sound.